Amazon just made a major change that's going to affect thousands of self-publishers, especially if your book falls below a certain price point. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly what's changing, who it impacts most, and what steps you can take right now to stay profitable. And at the end, I'm going to share the #1 mistake that many low-content publishers are making in response to this update, so that you don't miss out on what could be a great opportunity. I'm Rachel Harrison-Sund, and I help people turn simple book ideas into passive income streams. So if you self-publish through Amazon KDP, you probably saw this message a few weeks back pop into your inbox. For the first time since starting print operations almost 2 decades ago, from June 10th, 2025, we're changing the royalty rate for books priced below certain list prices. Example, less than $9.99 US. The royalty rate on these titles will decrease from 60% to 50%. These books represent a unique challenge given increasing operational costs, and this change will allow us to continue offering these books while avoiding impact to other titles. Separately, as part of our annual printing cost review, we're reducing color printing costs for paperbacks in some marketplaces to help authors adopt color printing. So firstly, this only affects printed books, not ebooks. So let's bring up the royalty rate change summary table, just so we can get a glimpse of how the different marketplaces are going to be affected by this change. So for the Amazon.com US marketplace, if your book is priced at $9.98 or below, your royalty rates are going to drop from 60% to 50%. In European marketplaces like Germany, France, Italy, etc., if your book is priced at €9.98, you will also be kicked down to the 50% royalty rate. For the UK marketplace at amazon.co.uk, that threshold is going to be £7.98. For the Canadian market, it's going to be $13.98, and so on. So what this means is if you have any books priced below $9.98 in the US store or under $7.98 in the UK store, your royalty rate is going to go from 60% down to 50%. It also means your minimum list price is going to increase. And most importantly, what this means, if you already have a very slender royalty, this might actually kick your royalties down to 0. So let's take a look at a couple of examples, just so you can see how this actually plays out on 2 real books. Okay, so let's take a look at example #1, and let me just get my glasses on so I can actually see my computer screen here. Okay, so example #1 is the Kawaii Daydream coloring book. It's a black and white paperback. It's 8.5 by 8.5, 87 pages, and it's priced at $7.99. Now, plugging that information into KDP's printing costs and royalty calculator, I can take a look at what the royalty being generated by this book actually is. So we can see that in the US marketplace, where I'm looking, the estimated royalty right now at 60% is $1.95. But after June 10th, when this book is kicked back to 50% royalty, the estimated royalty is going to be $1.16 for each unit sold. So that's a difference of 79 cents per unit sold. So using the bestsellers rank of this book, right now we can head over to Kindlepreneur's book sales calculator, and we can find out how many units per month this book is selling. So with a bestsellers rank of 28,612, 87 pages, priced at $7.99, we can see that this is selling roughly 234 copies per month. So at the current royalty rate of $1.95, at 234 units a month, this book is making roughly $456 per month at the 60% royalty rate. Now at the new royalty rate of $1.16 per unit sold, that same 234 units is only going to make $271 per month. So if they don't adjust their pricing, they're going to be losing about $185 a month. So if they were to increase their list price to $8.99, so just $1 more, that would increase their royalty to $1.66 per unit sold. And if they bump the price up to $9.99, so $2 more, now they're back into that 60% royalty territory, and their royalty jumps up to $3.15. So you can see here, it's not really going to take much to bump this person's royalty up. Now let's take a look at a secondary example. So now we're looking at a prayer journal for women, paperback, black and white, 5.5 by 8.5, 130 pages, and it's priced at just $4.99. Now again, we'll pop on over to the printing costs and royalty calculator, plug in that information, and again, we're in the US marketplace, and you can see that the current estimated royalty at this price point is just 43 cents. This person's profit margins are already razor thin. Now you can see here at the new royalty rate, because this book is priced at $4.99, it's below that threshold for the 60% royalty rate. So it's been kicked back to 50% royalty rate, but you can see that that has completely wiped out this person's royalty. They're literally making $0 on any sales that this book makes. Now over at the book sales calculator, you can see that this book has a bestsellers rank of 20,342. I've plugged that in here, and that's telling me that this book is selling roughly 290 copies per month. Now at the 60% royalty rate, that means that this book was making $125 a month, but again, it's going to be making $0 at the new royalty rate. So this book for sure has got to raise the list price. And just a side note here, when I'm publishing books, I always like to get at least a $2 royalty for every unit sold. So who is going to be hit hardest by this update? Firstly, and most obviously, anyone with books priced under $9.99 in the US market, especially if you're already operating on razor-thin margins. And this includes anyone that's relying on large volume sales for low-priced books. And of course, I'm mostly talking about low-content publishers here. The books I think that are really going to be affected are many of the coloring books, which I often see priced at $5.99, plain line journals or notebooks, certain puzzle books, very basic planners. And then I also see a lot of children's books priced below this threshold as well. Now, I don't necessarily see any of this as a huge problem. Firstly, this new rule is going to apply to everyone across the board, not just you. So it's not just you who's going to have to raise your prices in order to recoup whatever loss you might experience. Everyone is going to have to do this. And the reality is that most people don't care if they have to pay an extra $1, maybe $2 in order to get something that they really want. So let's talk about the steps you can take right now to make sure that you stay profitable. And like I said at the beginning, stick around because I'm going to be sharing the #1 mistake that I think a lot of low content publishers especially are making in response to this update, which I think could be a missed opportunity. So #1, of course, is to audit your current pricing. You want to use that printing cost and royalty calculator that I just showed you on the Amazon KDP website to determine what your new royalties are going to be. And make sure that you do that for every single marketplace that you're selling books in. Now, if any of the books in your current catalog are going to be moved from the 60% royalty rate down to the 50% royalty rate, you'll get a notice when you log into your KDP account, and it's going to tell you exactly which books are going to be affected by the change. Now, when you use that printing cost and royalty calculator, have a look at what your new royalty is going to be on that book. And from there, run the numbers on different scenarios. What happens if you bump up the price of that book by $1, by $2? How is that going to affect your royalties? Raise your prices where it makes sense. Make sure that you're still going to be generating a royalty on any of the books that are now going to be below that threshold, and adjust as necessary. So after you do your full pricing audit and you've made any adjustments that you need to make, now it's time to set yourself up for long-term success. And this is the mistake that I see, again, mostly low-content publishers make. They're simply stopping at that price audit. Now, this is a great first start, but it's not going to set you up for long-term success. So that is what we're going to do next. But first, if you want to learn how to start generating passive income, creating low and medium content books, and you want to learn how to do it the right way, download my free guide, 3 steps to publishing your first low-content book in less than a day. I've linked to that down in the description below. And if you're liking this video and finding it useful, please hit that subscribe button. It would really mean the world to me. Okay, so here's why just adjusting your pricing alone isn't necessarily tackling the bigger problem of value perception. So if your book was already struggling to stand out at $8.99, bumping it up to $9.99 or $10.99 isn't going to make it instantly just magically more appealing. Other things are going to have to change as well. The market really is shifting, and buyers are a lot more selective now than they've ever been. And if you want them to pay more for your products, they will, but only if they perceive that your book is going to be worth that higher price point. Now, in a way, this really is a good thing because it helps to weed out more of those publishers that are just here pumping out literally hundreds, sometimes even thousands of really low quality, low content books. Oftentimes these people are simply copying what other people out there are doing, and then they are undercutting the price. And because they're publishing at such volume, the smaller royalties per unit just end up adding up, and they actually make a decent amount of money. Now, as you saw in one of the examples earlier, if you're priced really low, your royalties might actually dry up completely. So this strategy really isn't going to be as effective as it once was, if it's going to be effective at all anymore. Now, if you are really interested in publishing high quality books and you want to do this long term and thrive, this is your opportunity. So here are 6 moves that you can make today to turn Amazon's recent royalty update from 60% royalties down to 50% into a growth opportunity. Number 1 is to adjust your positioning. Now, positioning really is just how your books are perceived in the marketplace in comparison to all of the other books in your niche. Focus on creating high-value books aimed at markets who don't mind paying an extra $1, $2, or $3 or more dollars for something that they really want, something that is perceived to be higher quality. Don't target bargain basement shoppers. The only way to attract those buyers is to undercut everyone else's prices, and that is no longer a sustainable strategy. If your books feel more valuable and more difficult to replicate, the higher price isn't going to scare buyers off. Blank notebooks, blank line journals, these are already incredibly difficult to sell. It's going to be next to impossible to generate really great amounts of money from them now. Number 2 is to optimize every touch point. This means making your books work harder to promote themselves and to promote one another. So this means using A+ content in your listing so that you can link to other similar books. You can cross-promote books from inside other books. So if someone purchases one of your books, maybe at the back you've got a couple of pages where you show how they can get their hands on other books in a series or other similar books that they might find useful. It means being proactive about getting reviews. Have a QR code in the back of your book where someone can scan it and they'll be taken straight to the review page. Ask people to leave a review. Next is to build a brand. So instead of thinking in one-off titles, start thinking in ecosystems. That means creating multiple related books in the same niche. If something starts to work, start creating more related books. Make sure those books all look consistent in their look and feel. Spend time creating an appealing author page. Create beautiful A+ content and make sure the A+ content that you're using on each listing looks similar. You're using a similar design aesthetic. People will recognize that these books belong together under one brand. Think about differentiation of your brand. What makes your group of books different, unique compared to someone else who's also publishing in the same niche? Think about why someone would want to come back to your brand as opposed to someone else's. When people start recognizing your brand, and they're happy with the first purchase they made, they're going to come back to you for more. Next is to start growing your email list right now. To do this, all you have to do is offer a very simple freebie inside your book. This can be as simple as just placing a QR code inside your book so someone can scan it, and then they'll be taken to a download page where they can download your freebie in exchange for their email address. Now you have a direct line to your customer. You can continue to offer value in some way, whether that be a monthly newsletter or additional freebies or goodies that you send them. And then when it's time to launch another book, you'll be able to promote your book directly to people who have already purchased something from you. This is something that's essentially free to do, unlike Amazon ads. And as it gets bigger and bigger, every time you launch a book, you're going to be able to get much bigger initial momentum. Again, you'll have a direct line to previous buyers that you can promote your new books to. You can also ask them directly to leave reviews for that book. Finally, think outside of Amazon. If you're not publishing in large volumes, it's a really good idea to purchase your own ISBNs so that you don't have to publish exclusively with KDP like you do when you use their free ISBNs. And then as your email list grows, if you choose to, when you're promoting books, you can send them directly to your own website because you'll be able to sell your books from your own website. That means you'll keep all of the profits. You won't have to give Amazon anything. Now, this really does work best when you have an audience, when you have a following, an email list, and that is just another reason to start your email list now. And if you're running ads to your books, don't forget to include your ad strategy in your audit. Again, if your royalties have a sharp decrease after this change, your ads might no longer be profitable. So make sure that you're running the numbers with all of the ads that you have as well. Now, finally, one of the best ways that you can encourage higher sales with your books is to get reviews. So watch this video next to find out how you can get ethical reviews fast. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.